Greetings, my YouTube family. Welcome to my digital empire. This is Key. As promised, I'll be talking about my trip and how it affected my consciousness and my overall view of life. Before that, I would love to reflect on traveling, and I know quite a few travelers, including my twin flame, and most of the time when I meet travelers, there's a feeling of expansion. There's a feeling of adventure and expansion in most of them. That's also like energetically, I would feel it. So, traveling, it's really like how it affects our consciousness to go from one place to the next is it gives us a higher perspective of what happened in the past or what will happen in the future. In a sense, when I traveled to Rwanda from Ethiopia, I kind of found myself out of the situation. Somehow I saw my life in Ethiopia and how it was from a third person perspective because I was out of the environment. It gave me the chance to reflect on the things that I didn't like, that I didn't want to bring to Rwanda with me, and the things that I love, that I want to encourage myself to do more here in Rwanda. So to travel from one place to the next, that's how it affects us. It gives us the chance and the wisdom of connecting the past, the present, and the future. And as I told you, connecting the dots is I'm an expert on that. So even though I'm not a traveler yet, and I have not really been to many places, Rwanda is actually my third country to explore. However, since my consciousness is open, and in fact, I've been traveling inside of myself, I've been journeying in within. It makes it so simple for me to be affected by the energy of places. That's why I always speak natural places because nature is how I relate to nature is very positive, and it's a mutual understanding between me and nature. So the first place is called Lake Kebu, the first place that I visited here in Rwanda. It's just 3 hours of, it takes us 3 hours to get there in a bus. So in that place, even when I was traveling, I was thinking about my past. So I didn't really know whether it's a healing experience, the whole traveling thing, or just it's because I have done enough healing work. I was just being rewarded by the universe to have a good time. So the universe used the people that I knew that I have met here to take care of me or just to make me feel loved in some way. But then, it's like it's really more than I've expected because even when I was in the bus to the first stop, I started thinking about my past. Because I'm now here in Rwanda, I started reflecting back to my life in Ethiopia, starting from childhood until my adulthood. I started reflecting on my friendships. I had a very toxic, dysfunctional relationships with men, as well as with friends. I had in total 5 romantic relationships at a different time, and most of them were has this dysfunctional element to them that had helped me to actually see where I was creating, where I was attracting these relationships into myself. Of course, it's connected to my childhood and how I was treated by my father. It's a sort of daddy issues, I would say, because most of the men I have attracted into my life has the same vibrational essence to my dad. So I reflected on all of my relationships. There was communication gap. There was lack of intimacy. There was misunderstanding and lack of compassion. It wasn't love. It's more of a trauma bonding that I had with all of the men before I have met my twin flame. And of course, he taught me how to love in the right way, and he taught me about unconditional love. But before that, it was a trauma bonding experience. So some of the my ex-partners, their energy was still in my energy field or in my body, because when you're intimate physically, psychologically, a person can affect you very much. There is even a quote that says, tell me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. You, and even my friend was telling me the other day, you are the sum total of five people that you hang out with, that you regularly, oh, sorry, sorry, that you regularly hang out with. So it affected how I see my relationship with men. Not only that, I was sexually abused and physically abused by an immediate family member as a child. That also shaped how I see relationship, how I see, oh, sorry, how I see relationship, how I see marriage, how I see uh, romantic partnership. So all of these things have been, like preventing me from actually attracting the finest, the highest level of intimacy into my life, even though like I've met my twin flame for us to come together in union. These things have to be sorted out. So I was reflecting on my romantic relationships as well as my friendships, my childhood friends, and these the people that I whom I called my friends. It wasn't really, it's because we found each other. We happened to be in the same place. There wasn't compatibility. So I've always settled for less when it comes to friendships, because I had codependency issues. My sense of self wasn't formed in full. So there was a codependency issue in me. There's an emotional kind of dependency. My father had always been my attachment figure. So he claimed to give me to be all I want for me as a child, and of course I trusted it. So whenever he's not around, I would normally seek out for other people to fill that gap for me, that psychological gap for me. So most of my friendships weren't fair, honestly speaking. I was born with so much light in my being. So I never intended to harm anyone. I'm always happy for people. But then I have this codependency issue, and I have a lot of fear. As an empath, there was a lot of things happened to me in my childhood that had me feel terrified of this world. So most of my friends kind of took advantage of that weakness. So even though I had this dependency issues at the end, like being Ethiopian is also part of it. Most of the time, Ethiopians, we live in a group. We are very social beings. So the reason why that happens is because like we do so much for each other as a way of survival. What you see in the outside world, the independency that you see, like the material, physical, and dependency, is not the same in Africa, especially in my experience in Ethiopia, where always there's that dependency thing going on in all of the relationships, uh, in people's lives as well as in my own lives. So I had to really think about what kind of friendships that I want to have here in Rwanda. Uh, some genuine, heartfelt, full of admiration and support kind of friendships. So yeah, I reflected on these things. So that had me. I knew intuitively that I was thinking about my past, and we arrived in that place. It was me and one friend. The first time. In the second town, we're supposed to meet the third person that we hang out with. At first, it was just me and my friend. So the place was so beautiful, and I was sitting in a meditation to just contemplate about the things that affected me in the past. And actually, the past is just the past is supposed to be visited when it's important for the present moment. Otherwise, whatever happened in the past is in the past. It's just to let go of it in total is what I felt is the right thing to do. Whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, since it's in the past, it's irrelevant for the present moment unless it's needed as a point of reference. Even Eckhart Tolle says similar stuff that I really agree with. So in the past, there are things that I did that I kind of wish that I didn't, but they happened, so I have to accept them. And also in the past, there is so much pride. There are things that I have achieved that I thought that gave me an identity. But now thinking about it, I'm not my law degree. I'm not. I'm not these things that I have achieved. It's just those things are those things are not who I am. They don't say much about who I am. I'm happy that I did my best. I tried my best to have a nice life. But then, it's a new start. I'm completely a new person now. I went through a rebirth. So the past just was meant to be released, whether it's positive or negative. So mostly I thought about my relationships, and at the same time also my work life. In my work life, of course, like I wasn't happy in the corporate world, no matter how much I got paid, and I ditched the total idea of being employed like 3 years ago. I did it only one time. I went to a guest house to work as a receptionist because I needed money. I knew that I was transitioning from one reality to the next, but like there was kind of gap feeling that I had to do by doing that work, and it lasted only three weeks actually. It was needed because I had to meet my twin flame, and once I met him, I knew that it's done. The purpose is done. So I had to take the next step. So, anyways, in that place, I got there thinking about my past, and I sat at the place and still contemplate and introspect about what happened in the past, and I felt it also in my body. I kind of felt it in my body, how in my solar plexus chakra and in my heart, what kind of person my past had made me. So on the next day, when we took the next trip to the next place, so there's a lot of next here. To the next place, I kind of set intention to just leave it there, leave my past there in that place that we were in the Lake Kebu, in the place that I stayed. So it worked, by the way. It's because like it's everything is possible. And when it comes to energy, if you believe in something, it's just simply works. Whatever you believe in, it's what you are going to get in the end. So I believed that I could totally ditch and leave my past, the past memory that's kind of created a void in me. I kind of left them there in the first spot. So when we got to the second spot, there was another limitation coming up still. Like it's I healed my past and I let go of my past. I released my past in the first place. In the second place, I was still thinking about where I wasn't accepting myself. I had an issue with self acceptance. I thought about self acceptance, when or I was made to think about self acceptance, self sabotage, and judgment, resistance, trauma, and things like that. I was thinking about my body. I gained a little weight recently, so there was like a voice in my mind telling me, I don't, it's not good, um, as if it's gonna take away something from who I am. So I was kind of, there was a voice of judgment and non acceptance and resistance in my mind that got me to think about living unconditionally and knowing that I'm loved. So I asked myself, what's my true nature? Who am I? And why all of these thoughts of limiting beliefs and resistance, it cannot describe who I am. So in the second place, I dropped again while we were taking the next trip. I dropped everything that has to do with resisting my true nature, and then acceptance of self and the body and the mind, judgment towards self and others, which I was feeling all the time in 30 hours or something. When I said I was feeling, I was not perpetuating any of those, but I was observing they were happening in me. So I didn't deny them. I acknowledged that they were still intact in me, but then I learned in the process how to start to build my confidence more. As long as I believe in myself, I can make it still in the world. The fact that just because we have shadow archetypes, I know my archetypes. I have a few archetypes of my shadow. It doesn't mean I act on them. I take action on them. For example, when I talk about having an addict in me, like as an archetype of my shadow, doesn't mean I drink, I smoke, or I feed that archetype. But by noticing that it's here in me, I would definitely take action based on that to get myself out of it and to actually transmute that darkness into the light. So, in that way, it's integrated. If you haven't yet seen my video on the shadow or shadow work, please, I suggest you go back and you watch that video. So, in the second place, these things were coming into the surface, it's really incredible how traveling and going to a new place affects our consciousness. I never really knew about this because it's my first time feeling at peace, I could say, like there were moments where I felt at peace, but right now it's consistent. And so energetically, I'm open, I'm giving life a chance to actually teach me what I need to learn. So yeah, I just decided to leave it behind, whatever resistance I had around my true self. And yes, it worked. It was very lovely. I was even feeling more light in my body and in my heart as we were traveling to this third destination. On the third destination, my friends decided to go to go to do their own thing. One of our friends came back to town, and one of the person that was around also went to do hiking. So I was just by myself on the third city, and I heard that there is a place called Twin Lakes. And of course, as a twin flame, I was so triggered by the name. I really wanted to see it, so I took a motorbike ride. It was an hour ride to get there, and then after I got there, even I had to hike up mountain to find the place. Apparently, when I got there, they said they only I had to book online, even though I did book online. It's at the moment they're renewing the place, so they're not accepting anyone. So I could not get a room there. But the ride was really long and pretty. It was like we were traveling through a forest, and I saw the Twin Lakes and how beautiful they are. There is this amazing, mind blowing view from the top to down. And yeah, the guy who took me by the motor guy, he was really kind to me. So we have that understanding between us. And whatever I say, when I wanted to take a picture, he would let me take a picture. When I just wanted to breathe and to have a moment, he would let me have a moment. So overall, I was just traveling, and I got there, and like it took me like 3 hours. So in that place, I just, as a person, as a divine feminine who's on a twin flame journey, I don't know how many of you know about twin flames, but I won't talk about it. You can go ahead and research. But as a twin flame, there is a lot of things that block the connection, like for example, doubting the connection is one of them. Like when it's not reciprocating in the way that we expect it, we doubt the connection. We want to believe that it's not there, or it hasn't yet happened, it's gonna happen next time, right? Even when we know that that person is our twin flame, that person is who we are supposed to be with, there's a soul connection that's undeniable, still we want to tell that story to ourselves. So especially as a divine feminine that's supposed to be leading in this connection, because we feel it more at first, I decided to leave any doubts and any frustration or any expectation that I had around my twin flame connection, because hope is something else, and expectation is another story. Expectation is saying I want it to happen when I want it to happen, how I want it to happen. But hoping is more like I leave it to God, I leave it to my creator to decide when to give me my heart's desire. So I kind of surrendered to to God's plan when it comes to this connection. I gave it to God, and there's nothing that I want to impose on my twin flame or on myself. So I learned about acceptance on the second place. So like it helped me to really embrace who I am as I am, and the kind of love I give to my twin flame is, I believe, the kind of love that my twin flame could have for myself at a higher level. So the ego might say, I don't want to commit. The ego resists commitment. I also had that resistance towards my twin flame, but then commitment doesn't mean losing yourself in the relationship, or it doesn't mean we're not individuals anymore. Of course, a healthy relationship for me is the one that we are really aware that we're individuals. I am individual and my partner is individual. So there is still some exploration that needs to be done on both sides, and they're not necessarily connected to one another. So it's just an open space of self discovery and healing journey. You know what I mean? It's not really biggie. When it's a spiritual connection, it's not like a relationship that's based on the ego that wants to control, manipulate, that wants to expect, or that wants everything to come into their ways. But it's really different. A spiritual connection even sets you even more free. That's what I understood. It's just the fear of commitment was an illusion, because it's when I love unconditionally that I immediately understand that I can be loved unconditionally as well. I'm loved unconditionally as well, which means it doesn't matter how I dress up, it doesn't matter where I am, how I talk, how I do things. I'm still accepted for who I am. And of course, I thought about trust also. I need to trust myself more and the world more. I need to trust my creator more. So yeah, it was like trusting and feeling safe in this world, which I never really felt safe while I was in Ethiopia. And even if I felt safe, it was only temporary, because I was on edge all the time as a child. That followed me to adulthood. So how can I feel safe more? How can I train my body to feel safe? So, like, by telling it that it's safe, and of course, Rwanda is a very spacious country, and women are respected very much here, and Rwandans are very humble. I even really, I just how we communicate in Ethiopia is very different. How Rwandans are communicates with each other. They are very humble people. I could see how the genocide affected their way of being, their way of life. So it's a really nice thing. So on the third place, I dropped every resistance and every fear that I had around my twin flame connection, around love and partnership. So these are the things that have happened. And when I get home, when I come back to my uh, home and I rested a bit, I felt the healing that taken place. I felt it in a very deep level, and that filled me up with a big gratitude for the universe. How many of us have the same understand our experiences on a bigger level like this, in this way? It takes a kind of it takes work, right, to be able to understand yourself on this manner. So of course, if you really ever get the chance to travel, I encourage you to associate it with your personal growth, so that it creates an expansion, even more, a more spaciousness within yourself. And that's really nice, right? It helps you to be creative and to be a better human being. So yeah, guys, this is the video for today. I wish you a blessed Saturday. Rastafari, love. Bye.